Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to a special live stream here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift NoDQ. This video is all about the 2021 NoDQ.com year-end awards, 22 years of the awards on the website. A lot to discuss, 22 categories for 22 years. Last year we had a full panel, and that live stream went about 2 hours. I love having the No DQ guys on the video. I love having the panel on, but that video went a bit long. Going to do a shorter video this year, give my thoughts on each category, my own personal picks, but of course, it's ultimately up to each and every one of you to determine the winners of the No DQ year-end awards. You can go over to NoDQ.com. Some of the polls are already up right now. A new poll goes up every day. We already have the male superstar, female superstar, tag team of the year, finisher, and other categories up on the website. More will be up likely by the time you watch this. Check that out. Keep voting throughout the month of December. And let's get right to it. Let's not waste any more time. Now, chat room, those of you watching this live right now, feel free to chime in with your responses, and I will put up some of them here on the screen as we go through each category. First off, we have Male Superstar of the Year. Roman Reigns, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, Edge, Bryan Danielson, and Bobby Lashley were the final 6 that made the poll. And I do want to mention that people sent in nominations, and the people with the most nominations, the candidates that had the most nominations, made it to the final poll. So if such and such isn't on the poll, that's the reason why they did not get enough nominations. Shout out to Colin Andrew, Walter Cruz in the chat room. Male Superstar of the Year, to me, it's down to either Roman Reigns or Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega, obviously world champion for almost the entire year, had a lot of great matches, some of the best matches of 2021. But as far as overall biggest superstar, I have to go with the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns. This was his year. He dominated. He was the guy. I think you have to go with Roman Reigns, and he is currently winning the poll. But I was going to go with Roman Reigns regardless whether he was winning or not. It should be his year. Roman Reigns has never won the Male Superstar of the Year poll, and I'm looking forward to seeing him most likely win for the first time. But there's still plenty of time. If you're a Kenny Omega fan, if you're an Adam Page fan, Edge fan, Bryan Danielson, Bobby Lashley, keep the votes coming in and spread the word. Tell a friend, NoDQ.com. You have the entire month of December to vote. Now, we move on to the Female Superstar of the Year. Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, and Becky Lynch. This is a tough one for me. Several of these ladies had great 2021s, but I think my pick would be Bianca Belair. She won the Royal Rumble. She defeated Sasha Banks at WrestleMania in the main event of night 1. That's a pretty big deal. I wish the last several months of her 2021 were a little bit stronger. She kind of lost some momentum after SummerSlam, but still overall, I think I would go with her. Sasha Banks is right up there, although she did miss part of the year. Britt Baker would be up there as well. Britt Baker, I think, is a very solid pick considering her accomplishments in 2021. That match she had with Thunder Rosa earlier in the year, and then, of course, winning the title and just having that momentum. Becky Lynch has been doing great, but she just came back at SummerSlam. She hasn't been back for that long. I have to consider the entire year as far as who I pick, and Bianca Belair would be up there, but really, Britt Baker, I think, has had the strongest year from start to finish of anybody. So it's really, really a toss-up for me between Bianca Belair and Britt Baker. But I will go with Bianca, but very slightly. Colin Andrew disagrees. He has to go with the DMD, Britt Baker. And it's definitely a toss-up, I think. Now we move on to the tag team of the year. We have the Usos, RK Bro, the Young Bucks, the Lucha Brothers, FTR, and Jurassic Express. This is another close one for me. The Usos have been on fire, part of the bloodline, but Jimmy did return after WrestleMania from his injury. They were not dominating the entire year. RK Bro has been very entertaining, but same thing with them. Lucha Brothers won the titles at All Out, beat the Young Bucks in an awesome steel cage match, one of the best tag team steel cage matches of all time, in my opinion. I have to go with the Young Bucks, though. I know they're not the most popular team. They're very polarizing, the Young Bucks. They did win the PWI top 50 tag teams of the year, and I'm agreeing with that. I think the Young Bucks, this was their year. They were tag team champions for almost the entire year. They had a ton of great matches. Love them or hate them, they deliver in the ring. So I am going with the Young Bucks on this one. And tag team wrestling is one of those areas where I think AEW definitely has an edge over WWE. So I'm going with the Young Bucks on this one. Now we move on to the finisher of the year. We have Randy Orton's RKO, Drew McIntyre's Claymore, Adam Page's Buckshot Lariat, Roman Reigns' Spear, Bobby Lashley's Hurt Lock, and CM Punk's Go to Sleep. This is very subjective. I like to go with what resulted in the most wins and also what looks good as a finisher. Kenny Omega did not make this poll, and I saw a few people were upset about that. But again, he did not get enough nominations to make the final 6. Of the 6, I would probably go with Roman Reigns' Spear. And the Guillotine was not on here, but the Guillotine got a lot of wins for him as well. But the Spear is a very dominant move from Roman Reigns. Another choice, it has not gotten a lot of votes up to this point, and you can still vote. You got plenty of time to vote. Bobby Lashley's Hurt Lock. I think Bobby Lashley's Hurt Lock has been a tremendous finisher. How many guys have actually broken out of it and won? Not that many. Bobby Lashley has submitted a lot of people with that move. C.L. Spencer says no roll-up. Good point there. The roll-up should be the finisher of the year, quite frankly. But I'm going to go with Bobby Lashley's Hurt Lock or Roman Reigns' Spear. Probably give the edge to Roman Reigns' Spear. But it's close. It's definitely close for me. And next up, we have the announcer of the year. We have Jim Ross, Excalibur, Corey Graves, Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, and Tony Schiavone. Another tough one. Even though JR has not been at his best, I still think JR is great. Excalibur does a great job of calling the matches. Corey Graves is entertaining. Michael Cole does a great job, doesn't get enough credit. Tony Schiavone is very solid, and Pat McAfee is just awesome. Pat McAfee is so entertaining. I think he is one of the best things to happen to SmackDown in 2021. He's just very animated and makes the show more fun to watch. Him reacting to Rick Boogs and Nakamura and all that stuff. Pat McAfee has to be my pick. It's Pat McAfee all the way, as far as I'm concerned. But they're all great. All of them, I think, did very well this year. Next up, we had the match of the year, which I'm sure will have a lot of debate. Very subjective. What makes a great match? There's a lot of criteria. We got Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan from WrestleMania 37. Walter versus Dragunov from NXT TakeOver 36, which was a fantastic match. Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers, steel cage match, which I mentioned earlier. Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson, the 30-minute draw at Dynamite in Arthur Ashe Stadium. Edge versus Seth Rollins, the Hell in a Cell match from Crown Jewel, which was another great match, and Kenny Omega versus Adam Page from Full Gear. 6 fantastic matches. Really tough to pick a winner here. Man, I don't even know which one I would go with. I think I'm going to go with one that might not pick up the win. I mean, they're all really close as far as I'm concerned. I can't even pick. Mr. Tito says Sasha versus Bianca at WrestleMania 37, which again did not get enough nominations to be in the poll. I think it was a really good match and a great feel-good moment, but I don't think it was the match of the year. So I can understand the other ones getting more nominations. I am probably going to go with Edge versus Seth Rollins, and hear me out on this. I don't think it was technically the best match of the year as far as technical wrestling goes, but the storytelling in that match and the feud, I think this was probably the feud of the year, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I think the feud was awesome, and as far as Hell in a Cell matches go, it was one of the better Hell in a Cell matches in recent WWE history, and you had a hot crowd too. You had a lot of things working for it. And I think that was my personal favorite. But any of these, I think, is a solid choice. If you pick any of these matches, you are not picking wrong. Moving on here to pay-per-view of the year. This is another tough one. A lot of these are very tough this year. And to me, there's no clear-cut winner. We got WrestleMania 37, Double or Nothing, SummerSlam, All Out, Crown Jewel, and Full Gear. WWE has put out some really solid pay-per-views, and so has AEW. Full Gear from top to bottom was one of the best wrestling cards ever on a pay-per-view, in my opinion. All Out was very similar, maybe not quite as consistent, but All Out had a lot of big moments. CM Punk's first pay-per-view match in AEW. You had Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson showing up for the big moments. I'm going to go with All Out, but it's very close. Like, again, all these were very solid pay-per-views. Double or Nothing, the first pay-per-view back with a full crowd. That was really fun. SummerSlam had a great atmosphere being in the stadium in Las Vegas. Crown Jewel turned out to be a really strong pay-per-view, exceeding, I think, pretty much everyone's expectations. And WrestleMania 37, very unique pay-per-view, but I think actually of all of them on this list, WrestleMania would probably be at the bottom for me of these 6. But still, WrestleMania 6, a very interesting, noteworthy pay-per-view. But, you know, still kind of in that era where you had the pandemic limiting what they could do as far as fan attendance. So it's hard for WrestleMania 37 to get a fair comparison to these other shows that had full crowds. Next up, we had Breakout Star of the Year. And again, these are based off of nominations. Who did you think had a breakout year in 2021? And the names on the list, we got Braun Breaker, Breakout Star, Braun Breaker, go figure. Bianca Belair. Now, she was already doing stuff before that, but this was really her big year where she rose to the top. Dante Martin, who's had a great year. Omos, who came in, won the tag team titles with AJ Styles. Sammy Guevara winning the TNT title, big year for him. Darby Allin teaming up with Sting, getting in the ring with CM Punk, a lot of big moments for him. So I'm not going to go with Braun Breaker or Dante Martin or even Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin, because those 4 guys probably have their best years yet to come. So I'm thinking of guys that are probably having their best year this year as their real breakout year. And those 4 that I mentioned probably have several big years to come. Bianca Belair, I don't know if she's going to top this year. Like, she won the Royal Rumble, won the title at WrestleMania. Is she really going to do that again? She might, but like this was her breakout year. Whether she stays on top remains to be seen, but I go with Bianca Belair on this one for Breakout Superstar of the Year. And if she doesn't win Female Superstar of the Year, I think Sasha Banks is in the lead as I do this video. Maybe she'll win this one. Catchphrase of the Year, another very subjective category. I mean, really just comes down to your own personal taste. We have We the Ones, The Bloodline, Acknowledge Me, Roman Reigns, Cowboy Shit, Adam Page, DMD, Britt Baker, I'm Better Than You, and You Know It, MJF, and Seth Rollins, I am the visionary. I am a revolutionary. I am Seth freaking Rollins. I'm going to go with Roman Reigns. He is the tribal chief, the head of the table. He prints money with these T-shirts. Acknowledge me. That's all he has to say. He comes out there, says, acknowledge me, and the place erupts. And he's the top guy. Cowboy Shit would be right up there. You get the crowd chanting it all the time. We the Ones right up there with acknowledge me. DMD, Britt Baker gets the crowd saying that with her. And I like Seth Rollins' line. I like MJF's line, but I'm going to go with Roman Reigns for my vote on this one. And now we move on to the faction of the year. We got the Bloodline, the Elite, the Inner Circle, the Pinnacle, the Hurt Business, and the Dark Order. I have to go with the Bloodline. Inner Circle's had a pretty strong year. Pinnacle's had a strong year. Hurt Business, I wish they had a strong year. Dark Order, well, whatever. I mean, they're a fun group, but not Dark Order. And the Elite, you could argue, definitely towards the top. But I am going to go with the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, and the Usos, and the wise man himself, Paul Heyman, for this one. Comeback of the year. This one, to me, is very easy, although there have been several big comebacks in 2021. CM Punk, Sasha Banks, Christian Cage, John Cena, Becky Lynch, and Brock Lesnar. Now, Becky Lynch left due to pregnancy. Brock Lesnar was gone during the pandemic. John Cena came back. He was gone during the pandemic. Christian Cage would be my number 2. Coming out of retirement at the Rumble and then going to AEW, having a really big year for him. He would be my number 2, no doubt. Sasha Banks, I mean, not really, but she got nominated, so she's in it. CM Punk, I think, is the very obvious answer. Like, it's not even close. With all due respect to Christian Cage, if CM Punk didn't come back, I'd probably go with Christian. But CM Punk coming back trumps all of that. CM Punk, no doubt, the comeback of the year as far as I'm concerned. And now we move on to headline of the year. The biggest news story of 2021. And this is a really tough one too. What constitutes the biggest news story of the year? Website traffic. I mean, it's a tough one. Just overall buzz. WWE releases 80 wrestlers during 2021. That's a pretty big number. That was a big story. And I mean, that was several stories throughout the year. CM Punk returning to wrestling. Huge. Bryan Danielson leaving WWE for AEW. Pretty big. NXT getting their 2.0 rebranding. Fairly big story. Ric Flair under fire for the Dark Side of the Ring episode. Pretty big story. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair's backstage confrontation. Definitely got some people talking. That was an interesting time leading into Survivor Series. But I think, again, I got to go with CM Punk returning to wrestling. Like, 7 years in the making. The releases right up there as well as far as a big story. But that was, like I said, several stories throughout the year with people being released. But yeah, as far as a whole, it was pretty significant. 2021, 80 wrestlers cut from WWE. But yeah, CM Punk returning, to me, gets the vote here. Theme song of the year. Again, another subjective one. Seth Rollins, Adam Cole, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Jeff Hardy, and Chris Jericho for Judas. I think I have to go with Judas. I mean, it's such a big part of Jericho's act these days. And, you know, one of the things that you love about AEW events, Jericho comes out, the crowd singing the song. You even had a point where the crowd sang the entire thing without any music whatsoever. It has to be Judas. But Cult of Personality, hearing that again, that's up there. Roman Reigns' new theme music is right up there. Jeff Hardy, No More Words. Everyone loves that, but Jeff hasn't really gotten pushed at that level. And I like Rollins' new music, and the crowd is starting to sing along with that. But yeah, I'm going with Judas. Chris Jericho, Judas for theme song of the year. And now we move on to the Babyface of the year. Best good guy in wrestling, for those of you that do not know the lingo. We got Drew McIntyre, Bianca Belair, CM Punk, Jeff Hardy, Adam Page, and Edge. Drew McIntyre, 2020 was the babyface of the year, in my opinion. But yeah, this year with the storytelling and everything, not so much. Bianca Belair is up there. CM Punk coming back, big babyface. Jeff Hardy as well, although Jeff Hardy, again, hasn't gotten much of a push. Adam Page, Edge. No doubt Edge is up there as well. I'm going to go with Adam Page, though. I mean, this whole story of Adam Page, his redemption to eventually win the title at Full Gear, that was a really big moment for him, and a big story, a big hill he had to climb to get to the top. I'm going with Hangman Adam Page, cowboy shit and all, for the babyface of the year. And next up, we have the heel of the year. We got MJF, Seth Rollins, Charlotte Flair, Kenny Omega, Roman Reigns, and Bobby Lashley. Lashley is just a badass. You know, he is a heel, but you kind of like the guy. Roman Reigns, he is a heel, but again, a badass. Kenny Omega can be annoying. He was a pretty solid heel. Charlotte Flair can be annoying. Not sure in the good way. Seth Rollins has done really good as a heel. But I have to go with MJF. MJF, he goes next level when it comes to being a heel. On social media, various public appearances that he does, MJF is always staying in character, and he is willing to push the envelope and say things that people would be afraid of saying in 2021. MJF gets the a-hole chance. MJF is my heel of the year. Roman Reigns would probably get second place for me personally. And now we move on to Feud of the Year. Seth Rollins versus Edge. Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. Kenny Omega versus Adam Page. Inner Circle versus The Pinnacle. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. And Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. All of these feuds have been solid throughout 2021. But I think I have to go with Seth Rollins versus Edge. They had that trilogy of matches that I thought were awesome. And, you know, you had that Madison Square Garden match. You had the SummerSlam match with the Brood entrance. And then you closed it off with the Hell in a Cell match. And that was one of my favorites. And Kenny Omega, Adam Page would be right up there as well. Inner Circle versus Pinnacle. Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley. McIntyre and Lashley, or Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, I should say. Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. All of them were really solid. Tough pick, but I'm going to go with Seth Rollins versus Edge. All right, and now we move on to the worst categories, which always draw up some controversy on social media. But you know what? You got the Razzies, the Rotten Tomatoes. You got all the negative awards. So just for fun, it's all for fun. Hopefully people don't take it too personally. Worst Superstar of the Year. And half of them don't even work in WWE anymore. Well, actually not half, surprisingly. Eva Marie, Jackson Riker, Nikki ASH, which I think is due to the gimmick, Happy Corbin, Reggie, and Omos. Jackson Riker was just boring. Omos, the guy's trying. I kind of like him. Eva Marie was terrible. Why did they bring her back? Happy Corbin is really annoying. I'm going to go with Eva Marie. Eva Marie is my pick. They should not have brought her back. It just didn't make sense. Like, I thought when she came back, she was going to be better in the ring, or she was going to have her character evolved, and they literally just did the same thing that she was doing before she left the first time. There was really no point in her coming back. So Eva Marie is my pick for worst superstar of the year. Worst match of the year. All right. Randy Orton versus The Fiend from WrestleMania 37. Damian Priest versus The Miz, that infamous zombie match from WrestleMania Backlash. Paul White versus QT Marshall from All Out, which wasn't a bad match, just wasn't very memorable. Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg from SummerSlam. Eva Marie versus Doudrop from SummerSlam, and then the 25-man Battle Royal from Survivor Series. I think my pick would be Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Like, talk about a match that just killed a career. And I mean, ultimately, it was The Fiend's last appearance. I think Bray Wyatt appeared after WrestleMania one time, and then we never saw him again. Like, that was such a bad booked match. And that whole thing with Alexa Bliss turning against him, it just sucked. The whole thing sucked. So, yeah, it was on a big stage, WrestleMania. I go with Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Paul White versus QT Marshall was just, bland, forgettable match. But as far as a match that I think, was something that people remember as a negative, it's going to be Randy Orton versus The Fiend. And now we have the worst pay-per-view of the year. We have the Elimination Chamber, Fastlane, Revolution, WrestleMania Backlash, Hell in a Cell, and Survivor Series. And really, none of these pay-per-views I thought were terrible. For the most part, I think pay-per-views from both WWE and AEW were really solid. So these were just pay-per-views that I think were okay. I would probably go with Fastlane just because it was the weakest of the bunch. And it wasn't even, I don't even think it was a bad pay-per-view. I just think it was kind of, a forgettable pay-per-view. So I'm going to go with Fastlane. But really, none of these shows I would say were terrible shows. And I think people were putting in Revolution because of the end of the pay-per-view with the exploding barbed wire. Colin Andrews says Survivor Series. Well, yeah, Survivor Series was not great. Definitely the weakest of the shows since the return of live fans. And we have the worst storyline of the year. Alexa Bliss turning against The Fiend. Eva Marie taking Doudrop under her wing. Ric Flair aligning himself with Lacey Evans. King Corbin transforming into Happy Corbin. And the breakup of the Hurt Business. I hated the Hurt Business breaking up. That was a bad booking decision, but that was a one-time thing, and once it was done, it was done. You just kind of move on. King Corbin becoming Happy Corbin. I loved broke-ass Baron Corbin, but then they turned him into Happy Corbin, and it's just something we've had to deal with him and Madcap Moss every single week. But Alexa Bliss turning against The Fiend, like I said, that match at WrestleMania 37, not a fan of that. However, since I voted that for the worst match of the year, I'm gonna cut Alexa and The Fiend a break for this category, and I'm gonna go with Happy Corbin just because I'm not a fan of that gimmick and I have to deal with it every single week. Fiend being betrayed by Alexa, that's done. It's over. Her business done. But yeah, we still got to deal with Happy Corbin. So Happy Corbin gets my vote on this one. And now our last two categories, we have most overutilized superstar of the year, basically most overrated. We got Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, Charlotte Flair, Orange Cassidy, Bill Goldberg, and Matt Hardy. A lot of AEW choices in this one. I would probably go, and you know what? It's kind of cool to hate on Cody Rhodes right now, but I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to go with Charlotte Flair. I just feel like she gets used too much, and it just feels like she's on TV more than she needs to be. I don't know, just something about her. I feel like she should be toned down a little bit. So my pick is Charlotte Flair on this one. Bill Goldberg isn't really around enough. But yeah, maybe you could argue that him being used once or twice is too much. And Kenny Omega, perhaps he was doing too much between the AAA title defenses and the Impact Wrestling title defenses, and he was just around too much. And maybe that's why he's out of action right now, because he worked himself too hard. You could argue that. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Charlotte Flair on this one. And then most underutilized superstar of the year, we have Cesaro, it's the Cesaro Award. He's pretty much in this category every single year. Brian Cage, Jeff Hardy, Keith Lee, Chad Gable, interesting, and Asuka. Asuka has been injured. So, in WWE's defense, if she's injured, there's only so much they can do with her. Chad Gable, they are doing something with him. Keith Lee is right up there. I'm not going to go with Cesaro, because Cesaro has done some stuff this year. He beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. He had a pay-per-view main event with Roman Reigns. He's done quite well for himself in 2021. It has to be Keith Lee. I know Keith Lee was dealing with some health issues, but the fact that they cut him and they turned him into Bearcat Keith Lee, and they stripped his music, and they did all these things to him. Just a huge shame with Keith Lee. Keith Lee is my pick. And Jeff Hardy's up there too. Jeff Hardy, they bring back No More Words, and they could push him, give him one more solid run, but they haven't really done it. But yeah, I think Keith Lee would be my pick. And that concludes it for my thoughts on the 2021 NoDQ.com year-end awards. But ultimately, the vote is in your hands. Every poll is in your hands. So make sure you guys go over and vote. A new poll is added every day over on NoDQ.com. Keep the votes coming in and spread the word. Tell a friend. Share the polls on social media. Anything you can do to get more people to vote. The more votes, the better. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support of NoDQ.com. Have a great rest of your weekend if you're watching live, and see you next time. Take care, everybody. Peace out.